I'm just checking to make sure. Oh, you have it. Thank you.
This meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Law. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. This meeting of September the 3rd, 2024 was published in the Courier News and Star Ledger and placed in the Borough's website. Notice of this meeting was also placed on a bulletin board at the Borough Hall with the complete agenda. A copy of this notice is available to the public, and a copy of the statement shall be included in the minutes of this meeting.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Brian Gallagher,
Here.
Teresa Bonner,
Here.
Glenn Denis,
Here.
Tom Mitchell,
Here.
Randy Pitts is excused for tonight, Gina Stravic,
Here.
Roger Vroom.
Here. Okay, please stand for the salute to the flag, and please remain standing for a moment afterwards. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I would just ask for a moment of silence for Lorraine Sarah. Lorraine was a fixture in our downtown for many decades. Her husband, Bill, and Lorraine ran for many years the Somerville Business and Professional Association, which essentially is the Chamber of Commerce for Somerville businesses. She was a store owner on Main Street, and she was an absolute character. If you had the pleasure of working with her or getting yelled at by her, she was just a wonderful, wonderful person who had Somerville in mind all the time. So please, a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, motion for approval of the minutes of August 19, 2024.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denis,
Abstain.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Okay, departmental reports and notices are as listed. I do have one proclamation for Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. And Kevin, this was sent in to me on Friday. Kevin put together a proclamation very quickly. Zena put together a proclamation for me very quickly, and I appreciate that very much. Can you ensure that this gets into the right hands? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, committee reports. Let's start with Tom.
Yes, Mayor. The National Park Service has announced the award of a $750,000 semi-quincentennial grant to the DEP for rehabilitation of the Old Dutch Parsonage. Grant funds will pay for a historical architectural consultant to design and contract installation of gutters, leaders and flashing, soffit and cornice restoration, window, door, and shutter restoration, and brick and foundation masonry repair and repointing. In addition, stormwater management will improve downstream environmental quality for the residents of the community. That's all I have, Mayor.
Oh, thank you. That's a great addition and greatly needed. So thank you. Gina?
The Board of Health will be meeting on the 18th of this month, 6 p.m. at the Warren Street building. They have their meetings there. Check the website, it'll be posted. So they're just resuming from summer, so they'll have a planning meeting going on. So anyone that has any ideas for Board of Health projects will be doing that, as well as reviewing the latest data. The Rescue Squad will be at the 9/11 ceremony on September 11th, and they're also planning a trip to the memorial in November, especially for members who are on the squad at that point in time and served in New York City. My report.
Thank you. Glenn?
Thank you, Mayor. Environmental Commission has teamed up with the New Jersey Electric Vehicle Association and RideWise to bring back the electric vehicle car show. It'll take place along with the street fair on October the 6th. Also, we promoted their first social and cleanup event on Instagram and have partnered with some people to clean up some of our parks. And that was a successful one. They're going to plan on having another one, so tune in to Instagram or Facebook to see when that happens. And then also there's been ongoing review of the DEP stormwater management plans to try to help get everything up to speed on that. The meeting will be held next Tuesday. Tune in for time and location.
Great. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Teresa?
Thank you. The Somerville Public Library has open notary hours every Wednesday, starting at 10 a.m. in the main reading room. Teen Leadership Committee meets Thursday, September 6th, September 5th, I'm sorry, at 6 p.m. In the young adult room. If you have a teen looking for volunteer hours, please have them register and attend at sclsnj.com. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Roger?
Certainly. From Somerville Recreation, the spray parks will remain open until mid-September. Michael Lepp Park is open from 10 to 6, and John Long is open from 11 to 6. Registrations are being accepted for the following programs: the NJ Santos Rush Soccer Clinic and Games for ages 4 to 7, adult pickleball lessons, beginner and intermediate, youth tennis lessons, grades K to 2, 3 to 5, and 6 to 8, junior pioneer basketball clinic is happening at Vanderveer, and also we have the Somerville 5K Turkey Trot. The fee did go up. The early bird is over, so the fee for the month of September is $40 to register. All of our activities can be found at somervillenj.org, fall-recreation-activities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of things. One, the planning board has begun their review process of planners. A number of months ago, we solicited requests for proposal from a number of different planners. We're looking at 3 different areas. One area is the day-to-day planner. Another is the documents, which include the master plan, the redevelopment plans. And then the third is the housing plan as we gear up for the affordable housing component, which the regulation should be coming out in December, I believe it is, yes. And they didn't leave us much time, so we're trying to get ahead of that. So they're still currently under review. And then a bit of interesting and nice news. Over the past 8 months, I've gotten to know a gentleman named Drew Smith. Drew was born and raised here in Somerville, and his father was Arthur Smith, a former mayor. And he was mayor from January 1, 1966 to December 31st, 1967. That's back when they had 2-year terms. Rich, I don't know if you remember him? Good. So if you go up in Borough Hall, he's the handsome gentleman with the shock of white hair. You can't miss him. He's on the left-hand side as you go up the steps. And his son has that same shock of white hair. But we've had some great discussions over the time. His father owned an insurance agency on Davenport Street, and just a very engaging conversation. So he just recently moved back to Somerville, or at least part-time, and he was going through his things as he was clearing out his house, and he found a few items. So he asked if I would get these to the Historic Committee. And he's got a couple of things. One is his original nameplate, which I think is kind of cool. And then for provenance, we have a photo of the council from 1966, which is kind of cool, because if you look closely, the council used to meet up on the 2nd floor of Borough Hall. And if you know where Dave Meyer's office is, you've got those stained glass windows right above the portico as you enter Borough Hall. That's where the council sat. And it was just very, very, very intriguing. And then they also put out a little booklet of all the committees, commissions, and the folks. And they also gave all the mayor and council's phone numbers, too, and their addresses of where they lived. So I think actually most people know where we are anyway. So, but that was neat. One of the really nice things, though, he gave me something, and he said, I'm giving you this to give to Historic, but I want you to use it for the remainder of your term. And that's his original gavel. And the gavel actually has his inscription, his name, and his term of service on it. So he asked if I would use it, and use it in good faith and in good company. and I will. I'm going to keep it back here. Each meeting I'll bring it out, but I think it's just a nice bit of history that we can kind of continue on. So I'll turn those over to you, Tom. Accept the gavel at the end of the meeting. So Drew, here's for your dad. How's that? Good stuff. Next up, order of business, the mayoral appointment. With the resignation of Deirdre Rosinski, we have an opening. We have a current alternate member who's been an alternate for a number of years, Christopher Addix. I'm going to bring him up and appoint him as a planning board class 4 member to continue in Deirdre's term. So I'll make that appointment. At this point, I will ask for a motion to open the meeting to the public.
So moved?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denis,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vion.
Yes.
Okay. Please state your name and address for the record, and please address your comments to me. The public portion is now open.
Megan Andrews, 12 Walnut Street. I've reached out to you and Borough staff and board several times, as well as spoken here, regarding the resolution violations at 131 North Gaston Avenue parking lot since the beginning of the year. The parking regulatory sign on William Street was taken down, and the exit on William Street, which the resolution was very clear about being one way, was turned into a two-way opening. This occurred years ago. The building owner never asked nor received a variance. The local police department eventually replaced the no stopping or standing sign, but told me personally it was up to the town to deal with the change of traffic flow and missing signs in the lot. I mentioned this several times to Mr. Sluka. Even as of midsummer, he made a comment to me that he might ask the police to handle the violation. As per the information I got through Oprah, the business owner was informed of the violation and given 20 days to respond. A meeting occurred with the owner and borough staff, including Mr. Sluka, and the town was under the impression the owner was going to seek a variance. However, last I was aware, they never did. Since then, I've gotten no information about where the matter stands or how much time is going to pass before this dangerous situation gets rectified. Meanwhile, there's been at least 5 car accidents on that block of William Street in the last few years. I believe the last one included 3 cars directly in front of the store, or that mall. When I asked Mr. Sluka where things stand with this, he said he had no further information he could publicly share. When I asked for clarification about that, he said the matter I was referencing is an active case. When I asked for clarification on that, he said, the public is entitled to documents which I have provided to you. I report directly to the mayor and governing body and the statutes of matter, and future steps are discussed with the appropriate members of the organization, which can include legal counsel, governing body, and mayor on all types of matters. I'm unable to provide you additional clarification, as I feel I have appropriately responded to you. The matter you are referencing is not closed and remains an active matter. School starts tomorrow, and the town has identified the violation, but they're not offering the public any more information about how this matter is going to be held and what, if any, timeline can be expected for its rectification. You, sir, have stated a lot about how transparent the town is, but this sure doesn't back up that statement. I remember you making a big deal about leaving me a voicemail, supposedly to answer my questions about this, but still hadn't, even after I showed up to the next council meeting. My second concern has to do with your response to myself and another resident who spoke in April at a council meeting. I emailed you my concerns since then, followed up at least once, and more than once with Mr. Sluka. No answer. To refresh your memory, it was the meeting when there were a lot of Eagle Scouts in the audience. And at the beginning of public comment, you informed the speaker resident that you don't go back and forth with residents during public comments. The thing is, you had gone back and forth with residents at past meetings, including February 5th this year. I emailed you examples of those Q&As that occurred, and I'm happy to resend them to anyone the links and minutes that show that they occurred. That night was also when I brought up how there were only 2 sets of minutes for the entire year at that time. But after public comment, you stated that, and I quote, We have been very, very thorough in our ability to get minutes done on a very timely basis, and that will continue. I'm assuming now that you were talking about past years, because that statement was definitely not accurate at that time, ever since you took office. That night, you also claimed that folks were going after borough employees and officials' families on social media. You gave the impression that you were accusing residents who are against the new gun store of doing this, which floored me, and several others, because to be clear, I have no knowledge of anything like that coming from that side of the aisle, nor does anyone I've spoken to. Your words that night were especially disconcerting because the young people in the audience that night. The statements I'm referring to were either flat out untrue and or from a biased perspective, something I think the group of young people here earning a communication badge should know. Although we couldn't ask questions at the meeting, we did bring up issues which you didn't respond to. I'm going to ask again, even though I have an email. How come no one ever mentioned to the concerned residents that there was an appeal option? Even if the belief was that we missed the time limit, how come you just repeatedly said nothing can be done, instead of something like, if you had sought an appeal before the time limit passed, then there would be options? It was as if no one there knew there was an appeal process, or that they were trying to hide the fact that there was one. From my point of view, anything any of the residents have brought up regarding anything at
Ms.
131
Andrews,
North Gaston Avenue.
You're going to need to begin to wrap this up,
Yep,
please. Thank you.
At one sentence. From my point of view, anything any of the residents has brought up regarding anything at 131 North Gaston Avenue has been either dismissed, mocked, or otherwise not met with any kind of respect or an actual want to have residents involved.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I am here to talk about the insurance ordinance that is on the table for tonight.
We'll take that up at the time of the
At
ordinance?
the time of the
Yes.
ordinance? Okay.
Yeah, we'll have a public,
Before voting on it?
yes,
Or-
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, Jennifer Lochran, Bridgewater, New Jersey. You might remember me as the skate park lady
I do.
who's sometimes mad at pickleball. For the record, I don't hate pickleball. I do have some feelings about the hundreds of skate parks across the country that were replaced with pickleball courts, but I actually very much like your pickleball court. So one of the issues that I wanted to bring up was about how redevelopment changes the landscape of our towns, but often it also pushes young people out of public spaces. For example, the first skate competition in Somerset County was held on Division Street. The train station, 3-Stair, was a local spot where we would all meet up before, like, we went, along the train line to another town. Kids now get shooed off of the 9/11 memorial and out of plazas. The police and the sheriff are actually really cool about it. They don't write tickets now, but they hang out on the top of garages. They ride their bikes along the train tracks. They haul obstacles over to that slab that's across from the pickleball court, only for it to be taken away. And I'm not saying you guys take it away. It's probably hauled off by kids. And you could say, well, if they didn't spray offensive graffiti, then, maybe. But I think that if they had somewhere to go that was theirs, and they were encouraged to be stewards of that space, it would be different. You could say, go to Anvan, but why should they have to leave their own community? Especially for something like skateboarding and roller skating and riding bikes. And did you know that Anvan was actually originally unsanctioned? It was actually built by local skateboarders. Kids today are in dire need of social spaces, of sensory play, of physical play, and a sense of community. And Mr. Mayor, you were the first to build a skate park in Somerset County. You recognized that youth needed this outlet. Sure, it had some issues, but you changed the lives of so many young people. And now old people like me, we still remember that. Skate park development has changed. It's not like what it was back when you built that park. And skate park advocacy has taken on a whole life of its own. I founded BR Skateboarding to promote low-cost action sports such as skateboarding, parkour, roller skating, scootering, and BMX, with the purpose of encouraging young people to engage in social and physical activities within their own communities, and to make these activities accessible, including to those who have financial insecurity, behavioral complexities, and disabilities. My catchphrase, "Build a skate park," means so much more than just building a skate park. As towns like yours redevelop, I'm here to ask you to consider these activities as part of it. Consider bike lanes, free public spaces for multi-recreational purposes, parks and recreational facilities. Consider that skate park obstacles can mitigate water, and build a skate park.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comment?
James Meister, 102 Bermuda Drive, Branchburg. So I'm back for episode 2 of the environmental discussion on the ordinances that should be passed in Somerville as well as Branchburg. I've been advocating there as well. One of these ordinances is the Flood Hazard Area Control Act that the state passed that requires municipalities to also pass this act. The purpose of this is designed to minimize the impact of flooding on human life. A fellow neighbor mentioned overdevelopment as a common theme in the state, and I understand that a lot of the time it's out of the municipality's controls, but when it comes to the environmental conditions that we are sitting in, especially after Hurricane Ida, when it comes to flood area, which we saw a lot of in the recent years, this policy is applicable to activities including construction, development, and land use changes. And more importantly, it provides that there's protection for natural floodplain functions, water filtration, wildlife habitat, and groundwater recharge, which are really, up on the level of environmentalism here, which is really important for our community. The second one here is the Stormwater Management Act. Again, another one passed by the state that municipalities are required to act. Now, this also is related to the environment as understood, but it's with stormwater management and the water quality with groundwater recharge. And the requirements would be that municipalities adopt the stormwater management plans as part of their master plans and implement them through these ordinances. This is really crucial for the greater good of the community. And the final thing I want to address is an ordinance that I personally drafted that I plan to propose and discuss at the Environmental Commission meeting next Tuesday that also discusses floodplains. That recent proposed idea for the giant apartment building, I think down by Somerville Ice Cream, I believe it was down by Hamilton Street. They declared that there was no flooding issue in the boarding meeting, despite the fact that clearly it exceeded the flood line according to drone footage back in Hurricane Ida. So before that is constructed and before it's even set in stone that is happening, this would really help mitigate those potential conflicts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to close.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denis,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
So I'm going to go in reverse order. So regarding the Flood Hazard Control Area and the Stormwater Management Act, I agree with you. One of the things that we're doing right now at the Planning Board, we are taking a look at planners and engineers. And we're making a determination both in 3 areas. One, we're hiring a planner engineer for, well, maybe not an engineer, but a planner for day-to-day planning issues, dealing with site plan applications at the Planning Board level. Second is housing plan, and preparing ourselves for the affordable housing rules that are coming down at the turn of the year. And then the third is what I'll call the supporting documents, the master plan, the redevelopment plans, the recreation plans, because this dovetails into what you were speaking about, Jennifer. And we're taking a look at all of those. And you're right, flood hazard and the stormwater management, we actually just had some discussion on one of those tonight. So it is top of mind. It's something that we are beginning to look at. We understand, obviously, with the Raritan, with the Petersbrook and the Raritan River confluence, we're affected almost on every storm, and it's a challenge. So we have to make sure that our environmental concerns work in sync with our development concerns, work in sync with our recreation concerns, and that's not an easy task. So, but trying to approach them as one-offs and taking one individually, we have to look at them as a whole. And what we're going to do is to start with the master plan and then begin to branch down from that into our other documents so that we can support ultimately what we want to do in the master plan. So that's kind of an answer to you. And in regards, same thing, recreation. What we don't want to do is a shotgun approach. And we want to create a recreation master plan that fits the needs not only of today, but 10 years from now. We have to understand what people are demanding. And it's something I told you last year when we spoke. We have to understand what people are demanding. And it's not just kids, it's folks my age. Well, dare I say, can I say senior? Am I there yet? I don't know. But it runs the spectrum of all the ages. But we have to understand that, what those desires are from Somerville's perspective first. So, but it's on the table, absolutely. And then Ms. Andrews isn't here. I don't know if she stepped away or if she left. The issue regarding 131 North Gaston, Kevin, if I'm not mistaken, that's in the hands of code enforcement, and they will follow that as they need to, compliant with the law. And once a determination is made, then they'll move forward with that. She did say something that I found a little disconcerting, that we've been very untransparent regarding the firearms store. What I can tell you is that there have been over 26 OPRA requests made on this site. 26. Every one of them complied with. Every one of them turned over, rightfully so. Every citizen has the ability to request those documents. But what I will tell you is it becomes onerous at a certain point, and it shuts Borough Hall down. Nothing else can be worked on. When an OPRA request comes in, I think people need to understand this. When an OPRA request comes in, everything stops. Everything. Because we have a set timeline. I think it actually loosened up today a little bit, but we have a set timeline that we have to comply with. And if we don't, we have fines that we have to face. So those become our primary responsibility, and we answered every single one of them. Hundreds of emails regarding this very issue to not only Kevin, but to various personnel. The amount of time and money that was expended on this was inordinate. I understand the passions behind them. I shared some of the concerns, but at some point it reaches it becomes onerous, and I think folks have to understand, and I instructed Kevin at one point, when somebody calls and says, why isn't this done, you need to explain to them why, because we have to fulfill OPRA requests first. I wasn't targeting anyone in particular, but we have to fill those first. Those are our primary responsibility. Otherwise, the taxpayer, we get hit with a fine, which ultimately the taxpayer has to get hit with. We will always strive to be transparent. You may not agree with the answers that are provided, but I try to give very unbiased answers when I sit at this table. I've been doing this for 20 years, and some would say it's probably too long, but what I would say to you is there's a reason I've been doing this for 20 years, because I try to answer people's questions. I try to be fair, and I try to be reasonable, and I try to listen to all sides. So, targeting Borough Hall, targeting folks, yes, people were targeted with language. That's an absolute fact. And I take umbrage with that. And I've said that at the time, that I will defend my staff, because my staff is top-notch. They work extremely hard every single day. This council works hard every single day, and I will defend them as well. We do this because we care about this town. And if you have a difference of opinion, I welcome that. Sometimes it changes our minds. Sometimes it actually adds to our conversation. It does. That's why we encourage people to come. This young man has been coming to meetings now, and, you know, some of it I look and I listen and I go, and some of it, you know what, he just talked about 2 things tonight, right on point, right on point. And we agree with that. So, you know, that's how government works. It's a give and take. It's not just a take. We have to listen to understand, not listen to respond. So with that, let's move on to ordinances for introduction. The first one I'm actually going to pull because I think we need to have some discussion on this at our next council meeting. I think this one is worthy of, this is regarding garbage, and this affects everybody. So I think it's worthwhile for us to have a deep dive. That's a bad, no pun intended on the deep dive. But I think we need to have a deep dive on this and actually walk through it. We can put it up on the screen and show what the changes are, what they aren't, and why they're being done, and actually have a conversation about it first before we do an ordinance introduction. I think that's a lot of time very well spent.
Are we amending this for our own accord, or is this a state regulation that we have to meet?
It's on our own accord, but the challenge we have is I think we have a year left on our hauling contract. Kevin, is that correct?
We do. We have a little more than a year left on the solid waste collection contract.
And-
So this
and-
does affect that a little.
Yeah.
As well as some immediate sanitation needs. Not, I wouldn't say immediate, but sanitation needs that we gotta take care of.
And we're facing some challenges with the way the bidding laws are being structured now, and what, more importantly, what the responses are in terms of what will be picked up and what won't. But I think that's exactly why we need to have this as a discussion point at the next council meeting. So we can put that on the agenda for discussion. All right. Number 2741 is amending Chapter 166-44, Schedule 3, no stopping or standing, to remove 2 parking spaces on the north side of West Cliff Street, east of North Bridge Street. This is an ordinance that on the corner of North Bridge and West Cliff, the very large Victorian, it's on the northwestern corner, has a zoning board approval to convert the office building into residential without really changing the character of the building at all. I think the planning board, or the zoning board, did a great job. But as part of that, there are 2 spaces that are, well, let me back up. The driveway is within literally 10 or 12 feet of North Bridge Street. And the property owner wants to move the driveway further to the west in order to create a safer space. So in order to do that, there are 2 parking spaces there that would need to be rescinded to allow for a curb cut for a driveway to go in. That driveway will then also access 2 properties. It's not just the 1 property, it's also the adjacent property. The zoning board went through this. It's their recommendation that this be done. Council heard this and vetted this at the last meeting. The applicant's attorney came in, explained additional information to us, and the council unanimously thought that this was a worthwhile endeavor. So I will open for public comment on 2741, which is not required, but it is something that I do on introduction. So public comment is open on 2741. Hearing none, we'll close. And motion for introduction.
So moved with a comment.
Let's get a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, I believe in the title it says it is east of North Bridge Street. I believe it is west of North Bridge Street.
That's correct, Tom, it is.
That's it.
The other question I have is, have the residents been notified? You know, are the residents that potentially use those spots been notified that this is?
I think they would be notified after this meeting for adoption, correct?
Yeah, I mean, generally, they're not notified in advance. I will tell you, it's probably likely those spots are being utilized by people that, because they're free spots.
Yeah.
So that they're likely to be utilized during the day by people that are going to court, actually.
Yeah.
Or somewhere else.
And we may gain one spot
Yeah,
back.
that's correct, yeah.
Because we can't gain two because it gets too close to the corner.
curb, yeah.
So, but we might be, and that's gonna be kind of a game day decision. Once they do it, we'll check it out and see how, what the dynamics are.
Yeah, and those spots are not in front of a residence.
They're in front of
Of the applicant.
that residence.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that
That
building,
house,
that structure, yeah,
but it isn't not yet a residence.
correct. That business, yes. All right, roll call.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denis,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes,
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, ordinance number 2742 is an ordinance providing funding for Borough Hall HVAC renovation project for the Borough of Somerville and appropriating $360,000 for such purpose. Kevin, just kind of give us a brief overview on that.
Sure, so Borough Hall has no air conditioning. So, we've been operating for the last year with window units. The chiller went out about a year ago. We did look at the price of that, to replace it. Chillers are generally lasting in our building anywhere from 10 to 12 years. I was here when the last one was purchased. It's a significant amount of money. That's no longer, it's kind of an older system. So we've met with our architects that handle historic preservation, and we talked about going into a split system. We'd lose the window air conditions, obviously. There are gonna, it's gonna be a different type of system that's in there. And what this appropriation is doing is paying for the design and eventually bidding and construction of that project.
Okay. Again, public comment is not required on introduction, but I open up anyway. Public comment on 2742 is now open. Hearing none, I'll close public comment and roll call.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denis,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
yes, with a
Gina
comment.
Stravic,
You want to comment?
Yes,
We
I do.
haven't,
Yeah, we-
haven't voted to approve it yet. This is
Yeah.
closing public comment.
No. Public comment doesn't need a
Well, then
council
we,
approval.
I don't think we got a first and second then to approve it.
Did we?
No.
No, we didn't.
Oh, all right, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion. Tom?
Yes, I just wanted to say, we want to make sure that this new design is consistent with the historic nature of the property, that we're not putting mechanical devices in that are upsetting the aesthetic of the building.
Okay.
We do have to get SHPO approval for this, but based on the architect's experience in other historical buildings, they've approved this. So we are using the same architect that did the preservation plan, so they're quite familiar with our building as well as SHPO. So when it does get to a point, we are gonna have to get state historic preservation.
Is that HMR?
That is HMR, yes.
Good, okay.
Second comment, I also sent Assistant Engineer Mark Abraham a couple resources to contact regarding energy savings funding programs. So I don't know if he's looked at those or
Mark
shared them.
Abraham, he did reach out for me. I
Okay.
explained to him what that program was. He had some familiarity with it. We're investigating that program as a potential source. That's usually utilizing the energy savings that's captured from the project to pay for a contractor. Sometimes the preservation programs are a little tricky about that, but we did use that for the furnace years ago. But if that's an applicable way of saving money and sourcing it, we're examining that, so thank you.
Yeah, and there are a couple resources too that were at the League of Municipalities, a couple different firms that also deal in energy savings programs. So if that one doesn't work, there may be others. But I would urge us to see if we could recapture. There's plenty of government money out there for these programs.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Any other
much.
public comment? Not public. Council comment. Roll call. This time. roll.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
yes,
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, ordinance number 2739 is an ordinance for public hearing and adoption. This is amending Chapter 97 entitled Insurance, creating Article 2 to be titled Business Insurance Registration. This is intended to comply with the state law, which essentially states that there's a certain level of insurance that a business must have, shall have, as a part of their operation. And it authorizes the Borough Hall to collect those at a certain point in each year. It is not retroactive. I know that there's been some discussion on that as to whether it is retroactive or not. It's a point forward, it's not a point backwards, so there is no retroactivity to this. I think that's about it. So I'll ask for a motion for public hearing.
So moved?
second,
Discussion, roll call.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
yes,
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Public hearing is now open.
All right. Caroline Flamos, 37 West Spring Street. So I'm glad to see that the borough is coming into compliance with New Jersey State Law 1368. I actually hold a license. I'm a licensed insurance professional. So this was something, I was very grateful to see the time and effort that went into this, and I appreciate all of that. There were a couple of things, questions and things that came up for me when I was reading through the document that was attached to the agenda. So in reading through it, if I understand it correctly, it seems like there's going to be a form provided to the businesses in town by the borough clerk. And if so, have you guys had a chance to review that form?
You can ask questions, make comment, it's not a back and forth.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, very good.
Thank you.
So that's just general question. All right, the second thing is that I see the use of the word unlawful in here. Typically that word, when it's used in reference like this, is typically talking about a criminal act and not a civil act. This is a civil law, and so typically, like with civil laws, my understanding is that fines can be levied if things aren't followed through, but we're not like throwing anybody in jail, typically. All right, so Section 5 talks about how an application for the business insurance shall be filed. And again, it references the form, so it would be helpful just to know what the form is, because the law requires that people provide a certificate of insurance. Okay, another section, and that section actually, we're referencing the bill number rather than the law number. So the bill was, before it was actually voted into law, it says PL 2022 instead of S 1365. And then the other question is, there's a penalty section that says there's a $500 penalty. But it doesn't really outline what would cause someone to be out of compliance and have to pay that $500 penalty. I don't see any kind of dates or deadlines or anything like that. And specifically, like, there isn't a whole lot outlined as to what would incur the penalty. There's also nothing on there about when it would go into effect, that the penalty would take place. And then the only other thing I noticed, and this is minor, I don't know that it would really affect like whether you guys would vote yes or no, but we have Section 5, and then it goes back to Section 3 again, instead of going to Section 6. That just seems
Typo.
like a typo. It doesn't, that's not really material to all of this. But I did want to point that out, though, because once again, like, we're codifying this, so I just want to be sure everything is in order. And that's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments in public hearing?
Celine Greaves, 97 East Spring Street. I also wanted to thank very much the board for taking up and addressing this issue. This is important, and I appreciate that this is being addressed. I also, however, had some concerns that were brought forward at the last meeting about the language, in particular being so different to what's put forth in the state. And so I would ask that there is some time for the reconciliation between what the intended result of this would be, to make sure that what the language is in being presented actually achieves that intended result. There are some discrepancies in, typos, and also the inclusion of the unlawful illegal verbiage that put me in a position to not be comfortable with this ordinance as written. And as so, I have spoken with an attorney, and they do unfortunately need a little bit more time to review because of the holiday. I did not expect there not to be any changes from the last time to this time, so I just wanted to inform and to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denis,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gino Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Room.
Yes.
All right, and then I will ask for a motion for adoption.
Mayor, I'd like to move that we table it for now while the Ms. Flamos is objecting.
Well, let's get it on the table, and then we can have a discussion.
Once we've adopted it, it's,
No, once we have it open, we can table it. Correct, Jeremy?
Yeah, you make it anytime.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's get it up on the table, we
oh,
can
I
have a
guess this is at
discussion.
any time, okay.
Yeah. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
I think we should consider public comment. I mean, she seems to have experience in the field, and maybe we need to look at it.
So I'm trying to figure out what exactly we're looking at. So I have the word unlawful, which we had some discussion on last time. And I struggle with that a little bit, and I'm not trying to, I struggle with that because something is either lawful or it's unlawful. I don't discern the difference. And Jeremy, I don't know if you can weigh in. Is there any criminality to using the word unlawful? Is there a degree?
Sorry, no. The way I read it is it's just like any other ordinance in town that prohibits spitting on the sidewalk or littering, or you have to leash your dog. It shall be unlawful to do any of those things, and here's a fine if you do those things. It's not a crime. It's not even an offense. It's not even a traffic violation. It's an ordinance that says you must do this, and here's the penalty if you don't do it.
And here's the civil penalty if you, so it's unlawful is not reserved for criminality.
Correct.
It can be used in
And
civil.
in New Jersey in particular, New Jersey makes a very strong distinction between something that's a crime, something that's an offense, something that's a traffic violation, and the even lower level things like this, an ordinance violation.
Okay,
It's about as low as it gets.
okay.
Oh, and I might not say one other thing, Kevin, for your benefit. As far as the pagination and articles go, I think where it says section 3 penalty, I think every section X after that should be article, or that's probably your intention. It should be article 3 penalty, article 4 all ordinances. I think that's probably what you meant.
And then I have, the question was, is there an application? I'm assuming you are working on that or will be working on that?
Yeah, so this, by the way, this ordinance is, there's not many municipalities in the state of New Jersey working on this. Only because we're mirroring, and we're getting a lot of phone calls on it saying, what are you doing with it, right? So by that indication means that a lot of people aren't working on it. So the form that we're asking for is probably what we call a seamless document, which people are familiar with. They go online, they fill it out. and then they'll have to attach their certificate with it. We all utilize a specific software in many municipalities in the state of New Jersey. The company is looking at a portal right now to do this, where people can go in and fill it out and attach their certificate. This is not an easy task at all. This is going to be, it's one of those knee-jerk legislations that are going to be difficult for any municipality that's small that don't have a full-time person tracking these. So it's definitely going to be a working progress. So the form really that was being questioned is going to have your name, address, and some minor information. It's a certificate that's going to have the value that we're going to be able to evaluate, similar to, other certificates we send it to our risk manager. They look at it. They say, okay, you could move forward. And this is really how we're going to set it up. We did talk to some local insurance folks as well. They said that they had notified their clients that this law went into effect, and if municipalities are asking for it, this is what it's about. But they didn't get a large response either, because again, there's not a lot of municipalities in this area that are currently have this in effect and active. So it's certainly going to be an effort of trying to perfect it over a period of time.
So typically, in creating the form, you would wait until it's passed.
I have other forms for
yeah.
other municipalities that are doing it, and they're just regular forms.
And it's really just making sure that the insurance company gives them that certificate of
That's correct,
insurance.
and they would send it to us, and our entire role is to file it at that point. And at some point, we're gonna try to create a database that's gonna match up with the form.
Yeah.
Because now, businesses come, businesses go. So it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a little difficult to do this, but, it's a legislation where unfortunately they didn't really talk to local government to kind of
Right.
figure out how they're gonna do this.
Then there was a discussion about the reference of the bill versus the law.
Yeah, we mirrored this ordinance off of some others.
Yeah.
So certainly, that's what they might have had in there. But I mean, if the public law and the Senate bill and the Assembly bill are interchangeable, that could be swapped out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an issue.
Yeah,
When we codify the ordinances, by the way, they do pick up certain things that are not substantive to the intent of the ordinance, and they will call us up, Zena and I up, they're attorneys as well.
Right.
They'll call us up and say, hey, listen, you have this in here, we're just gonna change this out, and that's the way the codification kind of works.
Okay, all right. And then you will fix the section numbers,
Yes.
that's de minimis, that's, so
Well,
by,
a vote to approve this ordinance will be a vote with that
correct,
change.
yes. And so they're de minimis changes, they don't change the intent, they just change very small portions, just to be more in compliance. And then the question regarding the penalty and more so the timelines, I think, was the,
So the penalty, the previous version had a range of penalties. So could have been between $100 and $1,200 and $2,500 or something. What happened was, based on the advice of counsel, we gave a fixed amount. And the reasoning before that, which makes a great sense, is courts are not gonna hear this, right? And I'm not speaking for the courts, but their dockets are full. So there may be those times when someone is unwilling to comply, but willing to pay the fine. So I can't have a court hearing to determine how much money the judge is gonna set for the penalty. So if someone wants to come in and say, listen, I'm guilty, I failed to do this, here's my $500 penalty, I'm done, we're done, right? So that was the idea behind that change. Similar to what we've done with other things such as grass cutting,
Right.
where the courts are not gonna hear those cases.
Right.
But if someone wants to plead guilty and pay our fine, they could do so.
so it's like paying a parking ticket.
Yeah.
You can pay it, or, yeah.
And the fine will be imposed with obviously, if someone refuses to comply. That's the borough always has the ability to fine someone. It says, I think it probably says may fine, because we're looking for compliance.
Right.
So the fine is kind of a little of the bite that we have that's disposal to us as a resource, that if you don't give it to us, you'll get a fine. The whole idea is to get it, you know.
Okay. All right. I think that covered all of the concerns.
I believe one of the concerns that you mentioned was that you didn't see what date or deadline there was for it to be filed. But I do see it under Article 2, Section 4. Registrations shall expire on December 31st of each year. Renewals must be submitted by December 1st of each year. So we do have a deadline of December 1st, just so
Yeah, good,
we're
thank you.
clear on that.
Thank you.
And Mayor, there's just one thing I gotta correct on the record. Last time, Councilman Mitchell raised a question regarding rooming houses. When I reached out to, my colleagues, it was a kind of a split decision. But in discussing it with legal counsel, we believe rooming houses falls under the category of owner of rental units. There's really three categories. While the ordinance and the state law looks very large, there's only three categories. It's businesses, owners of rental units, and owners of multifamily homes with 4 or few units. So we believe, based on our conversation with Jeremy and I, that the owner of rental homes rental units would be a rooming house. So I correct my statement last time. They will have to comply with this legislation.
Good, okay.
Sorry, Tom.
So nothing, Jeremy, I'll ask the question, nothing in here really is more than de minimis?
The changes we're discussing?
Yeah.
That is correct. Nothing.
Okay.
Certainly doesn't change the intent or purpose of it.
Okay,
So those if the changes that Kevin needs to make with, the typos, those could be changed to reflect what we've said here.
based upon what we've discussed here?
After we've voted,
Yes,
Well, your vote
And
would
it-
be
With
on
those
the ordinance.
with those revisions.
with the regard, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And what they would attach to this document would be, what, a copy of the insurance policy?
Like the certificate of insurance, Zena and I are used to getting from a lot of folks, just like limousines and so forth. They'd have to give us a certificate of insurance that we're familiar with. We would run it by our risk manager. We have a risk manager that would review it and just make sure it's in compliance. And once it becomes standard, it's probably something we could just look at a regular basis. But usually it's a certificate of insurance. You could tell your insurance provider just to send us a copy. We get copies of insurance certificates from folks that we don't even know who they are sometimes.
Because I've never seen a document like that with
What
home insurance.
What we could probably do is put a template on our website, I think, so that people could see what it should look like if they're not familiar with it, but they probably are.
What they would have to get that from their insurance provider.
That's correct.
Yeah. And sometimes the insurance providers will send those directly as opposed through others.
We do get them,
Yeah.
regularly in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing here that would force us to hold if the council so decided.
That is correct.
Okay. And I also say for the record that this ordinance came about through a comment that somebody from the public did make. So this was publicly driven and caused us to take pause and begin to take a look at this. So I will ask for a roll call.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes,
Glenn Denis,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes,
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Consent resolutions, we have one addition, which is number 267, which we will take up as an individual because it is a walk-on. We don't like walk-ons, but this is housekeeping that has to be addressed. So we'll talk about that at the back end because we have to treat that one individually. Are there any that anybody would like to have pulled off?
255 and 257.
255, 257, okay. Any others? All right, 251, establishing a title of hourly project manager. 252 is approving Somerville Fire Department application for Kevin O'Neill. 253 is approving Somerville Fire Department application for Alexander Nagy. 254, authorizing the sale of surplus property, being a 2007 F-350 dump, as noted. 256 is approving the hiring of Brendan Nally as an hourly part-time project manager. 258 is awarding a contract through Sourcewell, national contract for purchase of a 2024 CV 515 truck chassis and body from Allegiance Trucks. 259 is canceling uncollectible taxes Jacob DePini, known address as 200 Davenport Street, Block 102, Lot 3. 260 is awarding a contract to Harvard Protection Services for crossing guard services for September 24 through June 26. 261 is appointing Rebecca Harms to the position of Assistant to the CFO Deputy Tax Collector. 262, authorizing use of competitive contracting for the procurement of specialized property management services for the Emergency Services Facility. 263 is awarding a contract to G2 Automated Technologies LLC in the amount of $14,580.44 for the Emergency Services Facility. 264 is appointing John Guarino to the Environmental Commission to fill an unexpired term, expires 12/31/24. 265, amending Resolution 105, authorizing the utilization of New Jersey State contract with Steelcase, Inc. In the amount of $534,505.15 for the Emergency Services Facility. 266 is adopting the OPA request form and appointing record custodian, substitute custodian, sub-custodians, and alternates. How state speak is that? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, 255 is awarding a contract to Nature's Choice for yard waste disposal services in accordance with NJSA as noted in the maximum amount of $40,000. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
Yeah, could we explain this to the public? Is this going to affect, should this affect how we put our leaves out? Should we work with the Environmental Commission to do public education on reducing leaves, composting leaves, that kind of thing? We're moving these leaves.
Yeah, so this does not affect the operation at all. What this affects is where where it ends up. So for many years, we've had several different options. Years ago, we used to use the landfill, and then we were able to transition that to local farmers, and most recently to Duke's. We received a letter from Duke's that they no longer could accept leaves the way we provide it. And so all the municipalities that were involved in that arrangement had to find other sources to dispose them. So this is the contract that we're going to be paying for them to accept our leaves. As far as the operation and logistics concerned related to the pickup, nothing changes.
Okay.
It'll still be picked up by Somerville employees.
That is correct.
And it will be transported to this Foothill Road address by our people?
It's
or
going to a Bridgewater location.
Right.
The company's fairly local, but they're headquartered in Homedale. They used to be headquartered in Hillsborough. But it'll be transported to Bridgewater, Foothill Road.
So does this include transportation, or this is just to pay for the?
No, the transportation's on our cost.
Okay.
This is for them to accept. There was another resolution. This is only for I'm sorry, I'm confusing my resolutions. This is a year contract for this season. Yeah.
So we are paying by the yard, it looks like.
We
So
aren't paying based on last year's estimates of what we collected.
So it would behoove us to do public education to encourage composting.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Very much.
So Glenn, maybe we can
Yep.
put that on the list for Environmental Commission and also with Patty Hunt in terms of
Yep.
some techniques to do that better at home.
Good. All right. Roll call.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, 257 is awarding a contract to WCRE Property Management in the amount of $28,100 for property management services at the Emergency Services Facility. Do we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, my question is this just during construction phase, or is this a permanent, or we're gonna have a property manager to manage the facility and not our own people manage the facility?
The essence of that is correct. So we would be hiring a company to manage the facility when it opens in October. So what'll happen is, in addition to utilizing our forces, right, someone has to manage the entire project. It's a 24/7 operation, the fire and police station, and being together, there's really, it lends itself to a greater management need. So there are technologies that are in that building that we don't have the skill sets or technologies to respond to. So this company will come in and they'll be available 24/7 to handle the operations there, but they would be including our vendors. So what would happen would be during the day, for instance, our custodial management company would be managed by this company. Our snow plowing, our technology there, cameras, anything that's associated with the emergency services facility building would be managed by this project management company who has an expertise in managing similar projects like this that involve emergency services. It's something that I particularly have not done before. I think I highly recommend this approach at this point. I don't think our current resources would be able to manage that building and 24/7. So I think that this is the better option. So I did speak with the state of New Jersey about this because this is, I wouldn't say unique, because the state of New Jersey, they actually manage one of their buildings as well. But the state of New Jersey has to approve the way we're doing this. So this contract is for 6 months, and then we're going into like what they call a competitive contract. That's a resolution that you just approved prior to that, and it's going to allow evaluation of different project management companies that manage similar, same type of facilities. So hopefully that answers your question. Rodney and Mark will still be involved in some level of this, but for the most part, the 24/7 operation it would be managed by this property management company.
So are they gonna have a person on staff 24 hours?
They could have people on staff, so they're not gonna have, they shouldn't have people on staff, but
On
they
site.
could. Yeah, they could. So if something where they needed someone there overnight, they would provide that. But they manage that. So they do also provide an opportunity for they could hire an electrician, they could hire a plumber, they could do all that. Under this particular contract, we're asking them to utilize our tradespeople and our vendors that we utilize under this particular
Our
arrangement.
tradespeople being our staff?
Not necessarily our staff, but the people we use, such as plumbers, electricians that are local, and you know what I'm saying? So we use some local plumbers, we use some local electricians, we use a local.
A higher local preference.
Yeah, we have a local snow plower, so we don't need them to hire those people. They're gonna manage those entities, and we're gonna see during that 6-month period if that option is the best option for us. They offer other options too. They can manage from A to Z and handle everything.
Well, it sounds like they are. You said IT, snow plowing.
No, but they would be managing our vendors that we're utilizing. So like, and again, name vendors. We have Rogers Paving for snow plowing. We have, Total One for custodial maintenance.
Was this a budgeted expense?
I would say that it's either we're hiring someone to manage it, which would be, we're obviously, when we say it's budgeted for the remainder of this year. It's definitely not budgeted, we have not done our budget for next year yet. So we're talking about the months of October through October through December. That's what we're looking at, and then we'll go into next year. I think it's, for my recommendation, it's approach that the council should take. I wouldn't recommend it if it wasn't.
Having gone through that building, I don't know if you've had a chance to take a tour through that building yet. If not, we'll
No, I haven't been invited.
So I've talked to Colin. Colin is arranging an invite for everybody to go there. Zena's been all on top of me on this. She said, make sure you get the council and I there. So I think it's in 2 weeks. We're nailing down the date.
It's, the technology in the building is, it's beyond state of the art.
I can understand technology. I'm a little bit concerned about paying someone to.
Plus about a lot of the stuff is under warranty. So when I say under warranty, this company is also going to manage our warranties as well to make sure what's in, what's not. If there's something we have a discrepancy on, they'll handle that for us. It's an interesting approach, and I think that, in either case, we don't have the resources to do that, and I don't think we're in a position today to hire someone to come on board
Yeah.
to do that. I think this may be an option that we consider for the long run.
And council did vet this once before. You had brought this up.
We got references on the company?
We vetted that. That was an executive session.
Correct.
I don't think
Yes.
Councilman was there. The references?
Yeah.
Yes, we have a whole proposal for them. We had reviewed their references. So like I mentioned to you, they currently are handling a building that's a state occupied building, which again lends itself to a little benefit for us because of prevailing wage issues, as well as dealing with noise ordinances, work hours, overtime. So there's a nice value that they have because they provide that. And, you know, again, I think it's, until we look at any potential proposals that may be similar, I think that I'm comfortable with this as we get through the end of the year. I just don't think that we as municipal staff have the appropriate resources without going out and hiring someone to manage that building on staff right now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So they will, for example, make sure that we have chargers for all the batteries in the electronic.
I can't imagine for
Great
$28,000 we're getting
segue,
that.
Tom. Great segue. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
No.
Roger Vroom.
All right, 267 is a walk-on. This is authorizing the mayor to execute the commencement date memorandum with the rent schedule for the emergency services facility. This adjusts the commencement date, actually, it doesn't, yeah, it adjusts the commencement date of the lease for the emergency services facility beginning from August 15, 2024. And there is a typo, it should be August 15, 2064?
It's 40 years, right? 40
Yeah.
years.
So it's, right now it says 2024, so it should be 2064. All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, bills and vouchers. Roger.
Oh, goody. Let's see here. I forgot to write it down on my paper today. My apologies, everyone. All right, I make a motion to pay bills and vouchers in the amount of $1,125,303.50.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned.